Mr. Paylan, thank you very much for finding time and talking with us today. We're in Istanbul, Turkey, and obviously you had to make a trip from Ankara, or you were here, and we're lucky to find you here. Let's begin with your the famous speech at the Turkish Parliament regarding April 24th, which actually became quite a big deal for the Armenian community. I don't know how much in Turkey, we'll talk about this, but definitely in Armenia proper and the diaspora communities. The number of shares I can see on Facebook, I think, is getting close to 1 million or so. What is the impact of that speech from your perspective for April 24th particularly, but in general today in 2016 in Turkey?
Unfortunately, Turkish people don't know anything about their past, their history. And Turkey is established on a big lie and on a big crime. And people don't know anything about it. The only sentence they know is the Armenians were traitors and they betrayed us, and that is why we had to send them away. That is the only sentence they know. They don't know anything about the Armenians did here, and they don't know anything about the MPs in the parliament. And I wanted to show them that they had Armenian MPs and they had dreams to live together. They didn't want to separate the country because they knew that in every city there were Armenians and they had to live together. They had to find a way to live together. The MPs' dreams were that. But when I wanted to show their faces, because only thing they speak about is numbers. 1 million died or 100,000 died, that is it. You killed more, we killed less, that is it. But they don't know the individuals. I showed the individuals, the MPs, their dreams, and that was very effective in the parliament. After I showed them, several parliamentarians, MPs came and asked me about it. Did they really, were there really Armenians in the parliament? And because I showed them the faces. Because the numbers are cold, but the faces are really real, and their dreams were real. And what I showed them was that you betrayed those people's dreams. You betrayed the Armenians' dreams to live together. And that is why it was effective also in Turkey and for all the Armenian world in the world.
A follow-up question to this: it seems like this was unprecedented in many ways. There have been demonstrations after the assassination of Hrant Dink, and we've been seeing different processes in Istanbul. But in the parliament, to come up with a statement like that was quite a big deal. I see many other parliaments in the world, not even Turkey, where Armenian MPs don't do the same thing, but that's a separate story. You mentioned that even some parliamentarians were not aware of Armenians being part of Turkish parliament.
Yes.
Can we say that one of the major issues in Turkey is not only the, let's say, radical moods, but also the lack of knowledge, information, and education?
Yes, there is a huge lack of knowledge, unfortunately, in Turkey, and they are hiding. They don't want anybody to look to the past, and they don't want this black box to open. Because whenever we ask for them to open that box, they have to, because they just said those ones who established this country are heroes. But we say they are responsible for the genocide, the Armenians. That is the biggest deal for all the Turkish community, because Talat Pasha, Enver Pasha is still living in this country as heroes, and their names are on the streets. Can you imagine that in Germany, when you walk in the streets and you see that a street named Hitler? It is just the same. For 100 years, we are living in a country with heroes, Talat Pasha, Enver Pasha, and Cemal Pasha. And we want to change this, not only for the Armenians, for the ones we live together. that is important for the Armenians. Yes, we want this thing to finish and with the justice, of course. But we want this to finish with the justice for all the Turkish people, because if they live in this lie, that crime goes on, unfortunately. That crime is still going on in the Kurdish towns, in Cizre, in Silopi, in Sur, which were the Armenian towns as well. In Diyarbakir, Sur is bombed now, and it used to be an Armenian town as well. The Kurds are living the same thing 100 years later, because we didn't face that crime, and that crime is going on, unfortunately.
A question about Bundestag resolution.
Yes.
The reaction of Turkish president, vice president, and parliament was very aggressive.
Yes.
Probably. What resonance did it make in Turkey? Did it really matter for Turkish government and officials, the resolution of German parliament? Was it a big deal for them? Did it change anything towards Armenians in Turkey?
Yeah. The Ottoman Empire and Germany were partners in the First World War. Lots of parliaments just recognized the genocide, but this was different. The German parliament's recognition were different, because the Ottoman Empire and Germany were partners, and Germany just faced that they were partners in that big crime, and they asked to Turkey to face that crime as well. That was important. And the Turkish Prime Minister, unfortunately, just made a terrible statement, especially for Cem Özdemir, to test his blood in a laboratory. It was racist, but in Turkey we are living very dark days, and what we had about democracy is that we are losing now, and the nationalist movement and the radical Islamist movement is again very strong, and those two rivers came together, which were there was a secular Iddat and Terakki ideology, and there was an Abdülhamit's ideology, and which was the radical Islamist ideology and radical Turkness ideology. That two rivers came together in 2016, unfortunately, and that is again making big crimes and ruining discussing about Armenian genocide or facing the genocide, or just about just very small things about democracy. And Erdogan is the only leader, a totalitarian leader, and he's just blocking everything about facing the past or just asking peace about today's crimes.
So would the resolution actually affect the European Union and Turkey relations in near future somehow?
The state ideology nowadays doesn't care about Europe at all, because they have a huge fear about Kurdish freedom movement in Rojava, in Turkey as well, and they are blocking every kind of discussion about democracy, and whatever comes from the West, they just blame it as they want to divide Turkey. It is a huge paranoia, but that paranoia always lived in Turkey, and today that paranoia is very strong, and they only blame the West. But 5 years ago, also the AKP was trying to make the connections with Europe and trying to progress the relations with Europe. But today, the army and the bureaucracy, that old state bureaucracy, is very strong again, and that is blocking every kind of democratic movement. And to have connections with Europe means you have to have a democratic progress, and you have to be in a democratic way. But the old state ideology blocks every kind of argument about that, and which includes the Kurdish issue and the Armenian issue as well. That is why they see every kind of thing coming from the West as just trying to divide. That thing is trying to block, trying to divide the country. That word, that sentence, unfortunately, still is effective in Turkey because people are nationalists for 4 generations. People are educated with the same education system, the nationalist education system, for 4 generations. And they don't know anything about their history, and they don't know how to be equal. Because to be a democratic country means the Armenians, the Kurds, and the Turks are equal. We couldn't find that way 100 years ago because the Armenians asked about it, and they asked for local democracy, and the Kurds are asking the same thing again, and they are responding in the same way, just killing people and bombing the cities. They are just responding those demands in the same way, unfortunately. 100 years ago it was for Armenians, now it was for the Kurds, for this terrible ideology.
A follow-up question, because it's linked. The Bundestag decision, in a way, triggered another discussion within the community in Istanbul, particularly the letter by Ateşyan, who is basically functioning as the acting patriarch of the Armenian Patriarchate of Istanbul, and the letter was basically widely criticized both outside of Istanbul and other Armenian communities, but somewhat inside of it also. In Armenia, some people were developing the discourse that possibly this is the way you have to survive in Turkey. He had no chance, he had to do it. Is this the case? What is your take on this letter?
No, not at all. It's a shame for the Armenians living in Turkey. I'm sure that not 1% of the Armenians living in Turkey think like Aram Sirpazan. It's a shame for all the Armenians. Because even if you had to write that letter, you could write it in a diplomatic way. But he wrote it, I'm sure somebody had put that letter in front of Aram Sirpazan and he had to sign it. But he didn't have to. In the 70s, Şnork Sirpazan, we had the Şnork Sirpazan, and those were really harsh days, and he didn't write a letter like that. It's a shame for the Turkish Armenians, and we don't think like him. Not even 1% of the Armenians think like him.
The community does not have the same opinion.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. We don't think like him. We are in a fear, and we have right to be in a fear because we lived several things, and 10 years ago we lost Hrant Dink, and people have fears about me and about their churches, about their schools, about their future, and they don't see a future Turkey like this. They want to send their children again to the Western countries. But even if we live this fear, we go silent. Only that is it. And Aram Sırpazan has to be silent as well. People sometimes just tell me, please be careful and please be silent. Okay, I could stay silent, but I don't have a right to make that shame for my community. And I could only ask for justice, and we have the right to ask for justice. And in that letter, there are shameful sentences for all the Armenians.
As you talked about fears and as you talked about community people asking you to be safe, to try to be safe, let's talk about those fights, let's say, in the parliament.
Mm-hmm.
So, several people attacked you, and
Yeah.
that was not the first attack.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, do you feel safe in your political career doing it in Turkey? And do you get different threats usually, or it's something not very common?
The conjuncture is terrible because every day on the media, in the parliament, and in the Recep Tayyip Erdogan's words, there are threats for everybody, not only me, not only the Armenians, all the oppositions, all the Democrats, and all the identities who are not Turks and the Muslim or Sunni Muslim are feeling that threat. And I'm an MP and I'm in the parliament and I'm trying to stop that threat and stop that conjuncture because this storm really this storm is terrible and affecting every kind of discussion in the parliament as well, because we live a cube, and that cube is after that cube the parliament is over. We have only Tayyip Erdogan, and he is giving orders to the parliament, and he wants everything. He wants to rule all the country, and he is ruling the parliament as well. And we are trying to just stop him and ask for our rights, and he doesn't like it.
But is it dangerous personally for you to do
Yeah,
that?
of course. In the commission that they wanted to change the constitution about lifting our immunities, and we said that this is a coup and we have to protect the parliament because he is going to make, after this, if he changes the constitution, he is going to make operations to the system, and we want to protect the system, and we want to still be effective as an opposition party and opposition MPs. And we try to just raise our sound, and Recep Tayyip Erdogan's response was I was beaten, and several MPs were beaten in the parliament.
Other MPs?
Yeah, by other MPs, and he gave that order. Recep Tayyip Erdogan gave that order. Because there are really, AKP has 317 MPs in the parliament, and most of them, most of them I can speak and I can discuss, but there are 50 MPs, I can say, who only takes the orders from Recep Tayyip Erdogan and directly, and he gave that order to beat us. And I was beaten. I didn't say anything, but I was beaten with the words of Armenian bastard and Asala and those kind of words. They didn't know anything about it. They didn't know about the Armenian story, but their knowledge is that Armenians are traitors. That is it, and they had that order to just beat me and the other MPs as well, and especially I was the target, unfortunately.
So this new, this change that they're gonna make in constitution, it's against all the opposition parties.
It is especially for HDP.
Predominantly Kurdish party.
Yeah, he wants to get rid of HDP, and it's okay.
It's okay, let's go.
Now, Recep Tayyip Erdogan made the coup against the chosen government. We don't have Ahmet Davutoğlu anymore, and we have the Binali Yıldırım's government. But he's not the prime minister at all. He's just taking orders from the palace, and Recep Tayyip Erdogan is ruling the country. But not only the Recep Tayyip Erdogans, the army and all state forces are ruling the country. Nowadays, the soldiers, he's going to change the legislation. He's putting an immunity for the military forces today. In the parliament, he's going to put that today. He raised the immunity for the MPs, and he's putting the immunity to the soldiers, the army forces. And this tells that you just kill the Kurds, bomb the Kurdish towns, and you're not going to be targeted. And the MPs don't have any immunity, and I'm going to make operations against them and show them as I'm going to criminalize them, and in the media every day I'm going to put sentences against them, and that is his way, that is his ideology, and that is very dangerous. And that constitution, lifting the immunity is especially against HDP MPs. And for the next weeks, in the following weeks, we can have operations. All the MPs.
It smells like he's preparing something very dangerous and great. So it's kind of preparation, this kind of steps. Do you feel that it's kind of preparation for something big?
No, it is not a preparation. We are living in this queue. And for a year, after it had been a year, we had the 7th June elections in 2015, and before that everything started, especially they bombed our party centers, and they bombed our meetings, and afterwards he said, we are going for re-elections, and the war has started. And on the media, we were targeted, and because we were trying to a pluralist party, and not only the Kurdish movement, all the Armenians, all the oppositions, all the Democrats, we were together. And nowadays they are killing Kurds, and we are more Kurds, of course. Yeah, because in our party, if they touch an LGBT member, we are LGBT, and if they touch an Armenian, we are Armenian. And nowadays we are more Kurd, and they want this to happen. But that is dividing the country. That is dividing the ideals, and for every kind of discussion, and that is dividing our minds. And we are trying to just ask for everybody in Turkey, just stop Erdogan. But we don't have that power, unfortunately, because the nationalism very high. And CHP, unfortunately, Erdogan is blaming CHP, especially not to follow that nationalist laws. But they are unfortunately, they are not with us. They are with AKP whenever they need to be. CHP.
Just to touch upon the same topic.
CHP is the main opposition party, as you know.
Can we tell, in general, and I think this is of interest for many, especially Armenians from overseas, that the Kurdish and the Armenian interests are, in a way, matching in today's Turkey?
Yes. It is matching because the demands are the same. If you can write the Armenians' demands facing the past, the Kurds as well are asking to face the past and asking for equality. The Armenians are asking for equality because we are still living here And it is not only about past. We want the future as well. I want all the Armenians who are from Kayseri, Malatya, Diyarbakır, Sivas, I want them to come to Turkey not as a tourist, because this is still their land. And if the Kurds are telling this is Kurdistan, Diyarbakır, no, that is our common land. The Kurdistan, the Turkestan, and the Hayastan are the same lands. That is why this ideology is unfortunately raising the Kurdish nationalism and the Turkish nationalism and the Armenian nationalism. And if we want to get rid of all those nationalisms, we have to solve it in Turkey. So all the Democrats who are Turks, Kurds, or Armenians, doesn't matter, have to work together to get rid of all these kind of nationalisms in Turkey.
So democracy and the dream for a more democratic Turkey maybe unites you.
Yes. Yes, and this crime happened in Turkey, and we have to solve it in Turkey. Not in Los Angeles. Of course, I'm not telling it that those demands are very meaningful. If you ask it from Paris, Los Angeles, New York, or Hayastan, but this crime happened in Turkey, and we have to solve it in Turkey. And everybody who believes in democracy, they have to give power to the Democrats in Turkey, because we have so many friends in Turkey who are Turks or Kurds. They want to solve the Armenian genocide issue and the Kurdish issue and the Alawites issue, and those all are related. All are related with each other.
A long time among the Armenian communities, and that is there is a disagreement sometimes between communities that work from outside, be it Paris, Los Angeles, Washington, other places where Armenians are basically fighting for foreign pressure on Turkey to recognize the genocide. And what I'm hearing from you is it is more effective or more important to fight within Turkey.
Exactly.
Can we say, because we've heard this before and the former patriarch has mentioned this, saying don't do it from outside, that pressure is not effective.
That is important. That is very important. We have to put that pressure from outside as well, of course. But the Tayyip Erdogan is telling the Armenian diaspora is doing terrible things. That is the word. They don't know the Armenian diaspora. Okay, some hundreds of Armenians are coming every year in Turkey, but it has to be more. The ones who are from Sivas has to go to Sivas, because they are blaming Armenian diaspora. I'm telling that those are from Sivas, those are from Kayseri, and those are like you, and those are listening to your music and eating your food. It is all similar, and people have to show themselves. Okay, this year everything is going bad, but last year or the year before we could do that, and we can do that in the following years as well. The Armenians have to show up here. Really, it is very important. This is more important, because if you can't make the relations with people, you can't make it from the Recep Tayyip Erdogan's opportunist view.
That's a great suggestion, but a lot of Armenians who have the genocide memory are often afraid of coming to Turkey at all. So, in a way, calling those Armenians to Sivas, to Diyarbakir, to any other place.
Of course, these days are not convenient, but last year it was not like that. For 10 years it was not like that. I'm sure the efforts, if we put that efforts, this conjuncture is going to end sooner. Because people have to support the Armenians here, and the Kurds here, and the Turks here as well. And if we want to solve this issue, we have to put more pressure here in Turkey. And there are people in the AKP, the ruling party as well, who are ready for these relations as well.
and getting to another point, Armenia-Turkey relations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the one hand, we have the diaspora communities, we have Armenians living in Turkey. Where do you see Armenia-Turkey relations going in the future? You know probably about the protocols that were signed in
Yes.
2010. They are now frozen. How do you imagine the development of the future of Armenia-Turkey relations?
20 years ago, the Armenia cared more about Turkey. Nowadays, they care less about Turkey because let's say they cared about economic relations but nowadays they got used to live without Turkey. And they are making the relations with Iran, Georgia, Russia, and other countries. And I'm telling to the Prime Minister and the foreign ministers, if you want to affect Armenia, let's say, do you need an open border or the closed border? And Armenia cares about you less, and every year it goes worse, unfortunately. And they don't have an answer because for the nationalist system, they need a closed border and show Azerbaijan as a brother and just blame Armenians for everything. And the state ideology needs an enemy Armenian and an enemy Armenia. And but for let's say to solve this problem, we have to push more pressure, and we have to affect the community, not the parliament, not the parliament. I say not the government, not Recep Tayyip Erdogan. We can't solve that problem with that because it was about the pipelines. That everything was about the pipelines. If we have the chance to just pass that pipelines from Armenia, but they have found another way and they don't care about Armenia. But we have to really raise the relations between the communities, first of all. Just affect people. In Kars, in the border cities, Kars, Ardahan cares about Armenia because they say, why don't we open this border? But the rest doesn't care about Armenia. They think Armenia is a small country and they just have problems with Azerbaijan, and they don't know. They know about Hocalı, but they don't know anything about Sumyagit or Baku. And so to solve this problem again, we have to raise the relations between the communities, all the Armenians from all over the world, and we have to. If Armenia wants to open the border, Armenia has to. Armenian community has to come here more and to make more relations. But Erdogan is really about the Armenians living in here. He says 50,000 Armenians are living here, and it's not true. Only 10,000 Armenians are here.
You mean Armenians from Armenia?
Armenians from Armenia, yeah, are living. 10,000 Armenians from Armenia are living here, and he said that terrible sentence he did 5 years ago, that I'm going to send them to Armenia back again. Of course, those sentences affect Armenia and all the Armenians living all over the world.
So you don't, while Erdogan is still in power, you don't see anything positive
Yeah.
in this. And
But,
you also see
but
that
Erdogan is an opportunist leader. Erdogan walks in the way he gets power. 6 years ago, the world showed that if those pipelines pass from Armenia, it will be very good for Turkey, and you're going to make more money. Erdogan cares about money as well. That's terrible, of course. We have to find carrots and sticks for the Armenian-Turkish relations. There is no carrot and there is no stick nowadays. And the world doesn't put any carrot and stick. That is why we don't have anything about the Turkish-Armenian relations.
And you also don't see the enthusiasm from the Republic of Armenia side.
Yeah, and
Yes, yes,
I would like to
yes.
ask, so it's kind of from both sides. Armenia, many Armenians are also not happy for the opening the border with Turkey, so it's kind of not only in Turkey, but it's...
So you don't see the communication between the two societies?
Yes.
That's what you were telling. Okay. We got it.
Last question maybe here, as we know you must go. We were told recently from our Turkish colleagues here in Istanbul that basically the Karabakh issue is now a much bigger issue for Turkey and the Turkish
the short
society
war.
in the context of Armenia-Turkey relations than even the genocide discussion. In that Azerbaijan really has so much power that it can put on the Erdogan government or the Turkish administration in order not to allow for any normalization to happen. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Do you think the Karabakh issue and Azerbaijani pressure in Turkey is now much bigger than the genocide discussion itself?
So the small brother has big power in Turkey. Eyes have to miss.
Do you buy that? Do you believe
Yes,
that?
yes, I believe that. Yeah, and because if we don't talk about the genocide, nobody cares about genocide. If the German parliament did that, and people cared about genocide, and they just said they just continued the denial. That is it. But between Azerbaijan and Turkey, they say we are brothers, and we are Turks, and the Turkish nationalism bites that, unfortunately. And they have the economic relations as well. Azerbaijan is investing the money to Turkey. And the Turkish economy goes on with the Azerbaijan's money coming from Azerbaijan and the Arab world. The money is not coming from the West. And the Erdogan is a businessman as well. He cares about where is the money coming from. Nowadays, the West is not investing to Turkey. Only Azerbaijan and the Arab world, is the Saudi Arabistan, the Saudis, and the other Arab countries are investing to Turkey. And that is why Erdogan is caring less about Europe and the European Union's ideals. That is a bad thing for all the oppositions and Democrats in Turkey. And if this thing goes on, the denial is unfortunately will go on. So for the Turkish democracy, we need to really find that carrot for everybody in Turkey, and just asking for genocide and facing the genocide is important for our democracy. And if we face that genocide, and we are going to be a better country, and but people don't see that the nationalism is terribly high, and that is covering everything, every problem. And every day we have only Erdogan on the media, and just covering every kind of democratic demands, and only asking for this nationalism more, and he just puts in the media that this is an independence war, and it is covering every kind of discussion. And he is using the Karabakh issue, and especially the Hocalı, every year, every time, whenever the Armenian issue comes, he is using it as the Armenians killed more Turks, and he is covering the Armenian genocide demands with that Hocalı and Karabakh cover.
So I just would like to know, do you think that now the Kurds are in, like, let's say, danger, or is it a
Imminent threat? Imminent threat
Yeah.
for
The Kurds?
No,
Yeah.
not about the
Սպառնալիք կա, վերահաս սպառնալիք տակ է, too?
Yeah, I mean that. That's so
life
100 years,
size.
100 years ago, there were an Armenian issue, and nowadays Kurds want more,
Right.
freedom and more equality. So are they now in danger, or could it happen?
Can there be another genocide, in other words?
Yeah, we are. There is a genocide now because they bombed the Kurdish towns, and 500,000 Kurds are displaced, and they are not living in their towns. And about 6,000 young Kurds, they killed about 6,000 Kurds in a year. And it is a genocide as well. The genocide is continuing. And last year we had a peace process and nobody was dying. And but the old state ideology has the power, and they don't know how to make peace. They know only how to kill people and how to smash every kind of opposition. And they are doing it very well because they did the genocide and they didn't pay the price for it. And nobody asked about that price, and they are doing their business very well again. If the world doesn't ask the price about the genocide and every kind of crime that they did for 100 years and it's going on, this ideology is going to go on. And every kind of demand says we have a hostage again. And Erdogan's sociology is around 50% of the population. They are, let's say, Muslims, and they were the oppositions 10 years ago because of headscarf or other kind of demands. And nowadays Erdogan took all the sociology behind that state's ideology. Nowadays we can say 70 or 80% of the population is behind the state's ideology. Because that population and the state doesn't know how to make peace and how to make because they don't know, they can't even imagine how come an Armenian and a Turk can be equal and their demands can be equal. How come a Kurd and a Turk can be equal? They don't know that. Because that fascism has never lived a defeat, never. They couldn't make it. And the Hitler's fascism, the Franco's fascism, the Mussolini's fascism lived that defeat. But the Turkish fascism had never lived that defeat, and they are going on with their business, unfortunately.
So the violence is like a universal answer for every kind of problem. Every kind of problem.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Paylan.
Thank you
for your time. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much. Şunlara qalın. Şunlara qalın.
Şunlara qalın.
Şunlara qalın.